So, thank you all for your wonderful presentations. And now it's the opportunity for the patient community and their families and caregivers to ask you the questions. So let's proceed. Questions? Hands up. Okay. Go ahead.
Donc bonjour, je suis un malade français. Je suis suivi à la Pitié-Salpêtrière. J'ai finalement, je me rends compte que j'ai pas mal d'atteintes qui ont été décrites aujourd'hui. Je les ai pas toutes, mais presque. Donc d'un côté c'est pas très rassurant, d'un autre côté c'est rassurant de voir que vous travaillez là-dessus et que donc on va vers des solutions pour améliorer nos conditions de vie. Donc là-dessus je vous remercie de travailler pour nous. Donc ma question en fait c'est qu'au début quand on a été diagnostiqué pour Erdheim-Chester, on nous a dit que c'est pas un cancer. Aujourd'hui on nous dit que c'est classé comme un cancer. Je ne sais pas exactement ce que c'est la différence entre les deux parce que je me rends compte que je ne me suis pas bien approprié mon dossier médical. C'est une carence qu'il va falloir que je pallie en fait. Et donc, par rapport à mes petites connaissances, je crois qu'un cancer c'est quelque chose d'invasif. Et la maladie d'Erdheim-Chester en fait se situe dans différents endroits du corps. Alors, du coup, est-ce que les pathologies que l'on a se développent autour des endroits qui sont touchés, des organes qui sont touchés, ou est-ce que ça pourrait en fait évoluer sur d'autres organes pas touchés? Parce qu'en fait, comme je me rends compte que j'ai pratiquement tout là, est-ce que je me dis, est-ce que ça pourrait toucher le reste, ou est-ce que ça restera sur ces différents sites-là? Et enfin voilà, je ne sais pas si ma question est suffisamment claire.
I hear two questions. I have to translate first. So I have two questions. First, an important issue is Erdheim-Chester disease a cancer or not? And that maybe would be several to answer. And I believe it's not really a cancer, but we have found mutations in the MAP kinase pathway with BRAF mutation, and BRAF is mutation which is found in several human tumors and cancers, but it's not because you find a mutation that you find in cancers that this means that Erdheim-Chester is a cancer. It's a wrong term. I would say it's more like a inflammatory neoplasia, something that it's not really like solid cancer. So but some of my colleagues will probably answer that issue as well. And regarding you probably have several signs of the disease that have been described today in the many presentations, skin, endocrine, manifestation, brain, etc. But knowing your case, it's not that severe in your condition. And most of you could develop other signs of the disease, but it's impossible to predict. And most of the time, when we see a patient at baseline, he has certain manifestations, and it's, in my opinion, rare when you start treating the patient, which is your case, that he develops other signs of the disease. So I believe it's not you have, if you are treated like in your which is the case right now, you have very little chance of developing pericardial effusion, for instance, or disease of the kidney. Okay, you see that's you have several lesions and several organs which are involved right now. You're treated, and there is and you're responding to the treatment, and there is very little chance, in my opinion, that you're going to develop other lesions. That's for the second part of the question. The first part, if other people want to comment on the fact that I don't think ECD should be classified as a cancer, but more as a neoplasm, something which is not exactly the same. Juvie, do you have any?
Well, I believe that if there's any of the oncologists here, no, they're gone. Well, that is so controversial right now, whether it's a cancer or not. But in order for us to start doing some sort of research, getting funding, and also get services for the patients, using the word cancer might not be that bad. However, when someone hears the word cancer, they get really sad and they get terrified. Most likely, a patient will not remember anything after you tell them you have cancer. And if you look at the definition, or the simple definition of a neoplasm, neoplasms can either be benign or malignant. And even there is controversy through the medical field of what is a neoplasm and what isn't. The two classifications that have been published this year recently, one that reclassified ECD as a cancer was written by the World Health Organization and by a team of pathologists that actually say that ECD should be classified as a histiocytic dendritic malignancy. And it's the classification type 3 for histiocytosis of the World Health Organization. There's another team of physicians that published another classification where ECD is now part of the Langerhans group of histiocytosis. I mean, they were combined. So that is controversial. It depends which literature you're going to be following. However, in the United States, in the World Health Organization, that's from here, from Switzerland, is classifying it as a cancer. I wasn't part of that team of doctors that made that classification. However, these are the people that have classified lymphomas and leukemias since the 1970s. So it's up to them to actually, maybe we can invite them next year to the symposium so we can have better answers. But I don't know if Ben would like to say something about this. Sorry to put you on the spot, but.
So as a pathologist and a molecular pathologist and a hematopathologist, we do classify Erdheim-Chester disease and the other histiocytic disorders as neoplasms, as Dr. Roche was mentioning. We do put these in the category of myeloid neoplasms, and we do consider them to be malignancy. They're not like solid tumor. They're not like a lung cancer. They're not like colon cancer. They don't metastasize like that. They're more like blood cancers that are like a leukemia-based thing that's not as aggressive as leukemia, but it's still, we're classifying it as a hematologic malignancy, and we call it an inflammatory myeloid neoplasm, but it's not as aggressive as the others. I think one of my colleagues, Matt Cullen, who's also a hematologist, wants to comment on this from the clinical side.
Yeah, so I'm a hemonc from the UK, and I think from the hemonc perspective, this is as much a cancer as chronic myeloid leukemia, as many other myeloproliferative neoplasms or low-grade lymphomas or leukemias, which the word leukemia, you wouldn't dispute that was blood cancer. So I think it's very clear we have to call this a form of cancer, so the word that people understand, and it can be more lethal than other blood cancers that are already accepted as cancer. And I would agree with Julia. I think it's useful to bring this to the fore, to leverage awareness and funding and everything else that this brings with it. So to put the positive side, there are many blood cancers which you can survive for many years with, especially with the right treatment, which may be a maintenance treatment of a simple drug. And the great hope is that ECD will become like one of those blood cancers that people live with, and they die with rather than they die of this condition.
I've got a very different question to do with endocrinology. You mentioned, I think, 5 hormones in your presentation. There's at least 2 other ones that perhaps have affected me, and I'd be interested in your comments. for a long time I had elevated prolactin also, but when I started on a higher level of testosterone, it dropped and it's not come back again. So is that quite normal?
Okay, so just speak into it.
Okay, so hyperprolactinemia is very frequent in Erdheim-Chester disease. It's one of the anterior pituitary attained, and it's usually pretty mild. The consequence of hyperprolactinemia is hypogonadism, so it means that in men it lowers the level of testosterone, and in female it gives menstrual disturbance, dysovulation, and things like that. So the thing is that you can also have low testosterone by other means, like testicular infiltration, and also by pituitary lesions that lower the testosterone produced by the testicles. So there are many reasons for a man to have low testosterone, including high prolactinemia. The treatment can be dopamine agonist that lowers prolactin, but usually in Erdheim-Chester disease, the level of prolactin is not so elevated, and the treatment is rather testosterone supplementation in order to raise to a normal range the level of testosterone, and then we don't really care about prolactin level and we don't do anything about it.
For a while. For a while, I also took Cabasa to reduce the prolactin level, which is the drug with the unusual side effect. If you take a lot of it, you become a compulsive gambler, which is very strange.
Yeah, it's an unusual side effect of cabergoline that happens, but it's not very frequent. The fact of lowering prolactin with cabergoline can be efficient on testosterone, but usually it is not, because as I told you, there are other reasons for testosterone to be low rather than only due to hyperprolactinemia.
I had a question on one other hormone, which is oxytocin. I don't think the endocrinologists really look into that very much, but is it correct to say even men of my age should have some oxytocin present?
No, it's true that it's not a hormone we look at.
Okay.
It doesn't have very important implication other than in pregnancy and birth delivery.
But with a very low level of oxytocin, could you, for example, lose empathy?
Lose what?
Empathy? I think it's the same word in French. You lose...
You mean libido?
No. To interact with people and to...
We don't know that. There are no real studies about that.
Other questions? Here and then there.
Sorry, my question is about a lot of people in this room that are patients will be on verorafenib or dabrafenib or combination therapy, or and there's just talking to patients. There seems to be a lot of concern about the duration that people are on verorafenib, because I don't think it was ever intended to be a long-term treatment. And I know that Dr. Roche has done a study into coming off it and going back on it again. So I'll just ask you to comment on that for people that are on it for a long period of time. And also what the recommendations as regards follow-up, there's a lot of people that haven't had blood tests or haven't had much skin follow-up or any sort of follow-up while they've been on verorafenib for quite some time. And the second part of it is for people that are on verorafenib and have shown some improvement but not an awful lot of improvement, is there a recommendation that they should also try the combination therapy, or is there any benefit for the combination therapy where there wasn't a huge improvement with Verapamil?
Okay, so I think most of the data we have on long-term therapy by Verapamil, the first patients have been treated something like 4 years. Some have been put off the drug for a couple of months and are again under the drug for the first patients. So if you take the patients who have skin cancers like melanoma, usually they haven't been very rarely under Verapamil for more than 1 or 2 years, because at one point they relapse. And so we don't have from these conditions the side effects of long-term therapies. But I believe that most of the patients who've been treated for a long time, the side effects they usually occur in the first months of treatment, as Stéphane Barrette told you, for the skin manifestations, for the squamous cell carcinoma and the DRESS syndrome and arthralgia, and most of the problematic side effects of long-term treatment with Verapamil and Dabrafenib is usually probably the first year of treatment. So when you keep on treating patients after, it's rare, but you still can see side effects after a long time therapy, because we don't know what is the side effects of putting patients under long-term therapy. What we currently do is we usually taper the treatment if we taper the dose, and usually we put patients to 1 or 2 pills a day after 18 months to 2 years of treatment if they respond correctly. And before the LOVE trial you were mentioning, where we would put off the drug the patients, it seems we know that 75% of patients relapse. So it means that it's probably not a good idea to stop without doing anything after. So perhaps you should put them back on another drug, which was like PEG interferon or anakinra, whatever drug was given before they were under targeted therapy, or you could leave them under 1 pill a day of Verapamil. So that's what we trying to do right now in Paris. But it's not, it's I don't have a universal answer to that question. And so for the add-on therapy, like a patient who's under Verapamil or Dabrafenib who is not answering enough well, particularly patients who have CNS involvement with cerebral involvement, it's true that we have been adding the cobimetinib for more than 10 patients with some good responses, particularly on the cerebral involvement, where they seem to answer a bit better than the monotherapy. So, and a couple of patients during the last year who had severe involvement of their disease, and where we decided to put them, we said there is an indication for giving a targeted therapy. We decided to put them as you were put into the NIH trial with the combo therapy. We decided to do the same thing as frontline with also good results. And it seems that when you have the combo therapy, you have less skin side effects and perhaps more efficacy. But this is only in a couple of patients, and so I cannot, draw a firm and robust conclusion just for, these patients. But what is true is that when you put the patients off the drug, they usually relapse in 75% of cases, and with sometimes a couple of weeks after they're put off the drug. So that's a problem. So I think we should probably either not stop the treatment or put another treatment afterwards, which is not a targeted therapy, just to maintain clinical remission that was obtained under targeted therapy. But probably, I don't know if other colleagues want to comment on this. Julie, do you have any ideas?
Thank you. The experience that we have at NIH is with vemurafenib, is using the combination therapy, as Julian mentioned. And of the patients that we have been following, we don't know for how long they need to be treated, and we don't know for how long they can be on therapy. That's why we're doing the trial. And right now we extended the time duration of for how long the patients need to be enrolled. So we do give them a full year of therapy, and that full year of therapy stops either because there's progression of disease, there are unacceptable adverse events, or the patient decides to voluntarily withdraw from the trial. After they finish 1 year of therapy, we are monitoring them for a year of therapy to see how we should be doing the follow-up for patients that have been finished at least 1 year of therapy, and if that year of therapy actually gave any significant efficacy or the disease burden decreased significantly. And at this point, what we're doing is having not monthly follow-ups in person at the NIH, but we are keeping ourselves in touch with the patients and their doctors to see how they're doing. But we're monitoring them every 3 months and 6 months after they finish therapy. And if at the 6th month after finishing therapy they seem to be doing well, we won't see them until 6 more months. However, some patients that are off therapy, they do need to come on the therapy again. Like Julian mentioned, one of my patients relapsed within 7 weeks after finishing therapy, after finishing 1 full year. And other patients are doing well, being off the therapy after 3 months. And so it depends. It's really variable. These are just examples of 5 patients that we have. And even though we're being monitored by the FDA, they're really happy with the results. They do see that this is a promising therapy, but we don't have the statistical value needed to actually prove something. We can publish the series with 6 patients, but probably it wouldn't have the impact that you can have in order to develop the guidelines of for how long they need to be treated, for how long they can be on off therapy, and how should the follow-up be. Once a month, every 3 months, or how often?
Yeah, to complete, I forgot the first one of the questions you asked me is when you are on the drug for a very long time, when should you see, I imagine, the dermatologist, and I think probably you should have a blood test once every month or once every 2 months. I think once every month, and still check for the electrocardiogram, even though I think that the QT prolongation, for instance, if it hasn't been detected in the first 2 years of treatment, it's very improbable that it appears after. But we don't know, and probably see a dermatologist. I would say once every 3 months or so in the long time. Yeah, and if something new happens, so keep a little surveillance with simple blood test, electrocardiogram, and maybe see a dermatologist every 3 months, I would say.
I just on that, I'm just encouraging patients that are on it that basically it's not just take it and leave it, that they do need to follow up with blood tests, and that's the message I was trying to get out there, because just talking to people that are on the drug, they seem to be taking the drug, but the follow-up isn't going ahead, and they're probably not they're not going back and having blood tests done, and they're not seeing specialists in either skin or basically having a heart thing. And basically some of the speakers here today said that there can be damage from vemurafenib taking it over a long period of time. That's all I wanted to try and get through today.
Yeah, so I think you have to keep a follow-up, but maybe a little bit looser than before. Nothing, but like once every 3 months for dermatologist, and keep a blood test. I think just a little bit more frequent than you would do otherwise.
There was another question.
Oui. On a parlé bien sûr de cette maladie que l'on connaît malheureusement les uns et les autres, et moi je suis très content du travail que vous faites, madame, messieurs, et je vous encourage bien évidemment à continuer. Dans tous les cas, ce que je voulais poser comme question, tout à l'heure je vous ai parlé de l'assurance quand vous faites un prêt immobilier. Si vous faites un prêt immobilier, je vous le recommande, mes chers collègues, ne déclarez pas la maladie d'Erdheim-Chester parce que de toute façon, personne ne la connaît. Alors ce que vous faites un faux, vous dites que vous êtes en bonne santé à tous les niveaux, et de toute façon, si après ils découvrent que vous avez fait un faux au moment de la signature de votre dossier d'assurance, ils ne vont pas vous rembourser, déjà. Et de toute façon, si vous la déclarez, ils ne vous assureront pas. Alors, autant ne rien dire, et comme ça, vous vivrez tranquille. Au-delà de ça, je voulais vous demander, vous parlez beaucoup de la protection UV, les crèmes, les chapeaux, les lunettes et tout ça. Alors, quand on habite au bord de la mer, je peux vous assurer que c'est pas facile. Mais dans tous les cas, vous n'avez jamais parlé de la conduite en voiture des pare-brises et des vitres. Alors, vous savez que la loi française autorise aujourd'hui 90% de protection d'UV sur les pare-brises parce que c'est pour les gendarmes notamment. On ne peut pas avoir des vitres noires parce qu'autrement, si on vous recherche, vous pouvez passer à côté des gendarmes et on ne vous reconnaît pas. Donc, quelle est la tolérance aujourd'hui et est-ce qu'il faut un certificat médical pour obtenir des pare-brises teintées et des vitres latérales teintées? Merci.
A very good question. Easy to answer. What about the UV? You know there are many types of UV, ultraviolet, and the UVA and UVB. And through the glasses of your car, only go through the UVB and not the UVA. So it's one protection, one little protection of the spectrum inside the UV first. Then I think it's, I don't know if you can have a paper to say that you have to change for a double protection with the UV. I don't have the answer for this, but I don't think it does exist. You know, I'm taking care also of patients with organ transplant patients, and it's the same. They are high risk with the immunosuppressive therapy to get cancers of the skin. And we talk many times with the association and many patients and institutions to find a solution about how to improve the protection from UV and how to eventually get sun cream reimbursed by the security, social, or by different administration. And it's a big problem because we never have any answer for this. And all the institutions now are going through to improve this problem, but we haven't found solutions for about many years. So to conclude on your question about your car, I think the message, take-home message is really to avoid sun. It means that, of course, even if you're a man, you have to put some dressing on your skin. You have to put cream inside your car or just before to go into your cars, and to avoid as much as you can, because we are not like policy to say you don't do this. You know, we recommend that really you just avoid to be a direct contact with the sun without any protection. I think it's just the practice. We can go around and find alternative solutions with other, but it's been done in different different problem dermatology, and we never have a solution for this with the public health. So I think the best is to put on some cream and dressing. Maybe it won't be a good answer for you, but but that's the main message.
Je veux juste rajouter, Dr Barrett, ce qui serait bien, je ne demande pas de le faire pour chacun de nous, mais peut-être dans les régions où nous habitons, c'est de dire, ou alors vous connaissez sans doute des dermatologues locaux, ou là où on habite, mais c'est de dire ce qu'est la maladie d'Erdheim-Chester, parce que quand on leur demande, quand on leur dit qu'on a cette maladie-là, alors déjà ils ne le savent pas, ils ne la connaissent pas, et quand on leur dit qu'on doit être examiné régulièrement pour les problèmes de peau, alors là ils nous disent bah, écoutez, moi j'ai pas que ça à faire, hein. Moi, les rendez-vous c'est tous les 4 mois, et encore, je suis pas sûr de pouvoir vous recevoir. Donc voilà, je trouve que là on a besoin de se faire connaître. On va essayer les uns et les autres peut-être monter une structure associative, au moins pour le territoire français, voire pour le territoire européen. J'espère que le professeur Arroche nous donnera un local pour nous réunir. Mais dans tous les cas, ce qui serait sympa, c'est qu'on vous donne le nom de dermatos locaux et que vous nous donniez un courrier, qu'on lui montre, et puis après, on ne nous pose plus ces éternelles questions que qu'est-ce que c'est que la maladie d'Erdheim-Chester? Ah oui, ça touche les os, bon c'est pas grave, etc. Ouais, mais vous avez une belle peau, bah oui, merci beaucoup madame. Enfin, en attendant, vous êtes une peau de... Et puis alors, voilà, c'est ça, quoi. Alors, nous, on est un peu fatigués de toujours rabâcher ce que l'on a, ce que l'on a. Alors, est-ce que vous vous engageriez éventuellement à nous donner le nom d'un bon dermato dans notre département, voire dans notre presqu'île? Merci.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to try to find you a dermatologist who's affordable and who can see you regularly without 4 months delay. Dr. Barrett will give you one name shortly. It's complicated for worldwide, I imagine, but it's true. It's important to have good specialists who know what the disease is, and so the object of such meetings and congress we're all participating is to educate also doctors on what the disease is, and so progresses are made, and hopefully in a couple of years you will be able to define what is your disease. But it's a problem of the disease who have rare disease and who have how do you say names of like Erdheim-Chester and Hand-Schuller, Christian, all those names. That's complicated. If the name was a simple name, it would be probably simpler. That's another debate. But anyway.
Oui, alors voilà, moi aussi j'ai 2-3 questions. Donc je suis suivi par l'équipe du professeur Arroche, merci. Ça fait 2 ans aussi que je suis sous Elboraf et moi j'ai des atteintes cardiaques. Et j'ai quand même plusieurs questions. D'abord, est-ce qu'il y a... donc on a les atteintes, nous, au niveau des coronaires, au niveau du septum. J'ai des péricardites en long, en large, en travers. Est-ce qu'il y a des mesures de prophylaxie, finalement, pour protéger notre cœur au long terme? Qu'est-ce qu'il faut qu'on fasse pour ça? Déjà, ça, c'est la première chose. La deuxième chose aussi, on va avoir des problèmes rénaux. Bon, je les ai déjà. Ils sont en train... J'en ai un qui est déjà bousillé. Le deuxième, on va peut-être le protéger par un stenting. On a parlé de greffe rénale, de greffe de rein, mais si on a un cœur qui est aussi bousillé qu'on le voit là, est-ce que ça ne devient pas une contre-indication finalement à une greffe rénale? Et est-ce qu'on peut, est-ce que le risque opératoire, est-ce qu'un anesthésiste voudra bien nous endormir et surtout prendre le risque de nous réveiller? Ça c'est... Et puis ensuite, on a parlé aussi de suivi au long terme et de radiation. Là, il y a eu tout un discours sur les différents niveaux de radiation des différentes machines. Est-ce qu'on a un risque finalement à long terme avec ces radiations? Donc ça c'est pour le volet des questions que j'ai. Et puis après, j'aimerais bien aussi qu'on parle de l'accompagnement et du suivi de nos compagnons et compagnes, parce que eux aussi, ils prennent cher, entre guillemets. C'est-à-dire qu'il n'y a pas que nous, nous patients qui sommes atteints dans nos corps, il y a nos femmes, il y a nos maris, qui sont nos enfants, voilà. Il faut aussi accompagner, aider puisqu'on parle de cancer, on parle de néoplasme, machin, truc, enfin bref, des choses de toute façon pas marrantes. Et ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on n'a pas du tout entendu aujourd'hui. Donc voilà, et qu'en France, on n'entend pas beaucoup non plus. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'on fait pour, finalement, pour nos moitiés et nos descendants, hein. Voilà. Excusez-moi.
Ok. Alors, pour transplant, the first part of the question was renal transplant. So it's very rare in Erdheim-Chester disease. There's a couple of case reports. It's too bad Augusto left because it's more like his part. But it's very rare. It's not impossible, and the heart is not a contraindication to get the surgery and the anesthetic risk if it works well. It's not because you have an infiltration, a pseudo-tumoral infiltration of the right atrium. If your left ventricular function is correct, if your heart functioned well, and if you do not have pericardial fluid at the time of the surgery, and if you do not have any coronary heart disease, particular coronary heart disease, you could theoretically get the kidney transplant if there were an indication. The other questions were regarding the radiation. So I'll first answer to the last question, which was the siblings and wife and children. It's true that like all chronic disease and rare and orphan disease, I think the role of such an organization is probably to help patients and families and try to explain with most understandable words what the disease is and what are the severe involvements, the treatment, and try to help as much for the quality of life and the pain and the problems of insurance that another patient was referring, and perhaps this could be one of the role, and I think it's already one of the role of this organization who has been existing 10 years, and so I guess if, for example, the French patients enter this organization, we could try to help as much as possible to develop programs where we could try to give as much information as possible. But I think a lot has been done already, but it's true that it's important to have at least one day like that each year to try to explain to the patient and their family what the disease is, and if it's normal to be tired and to have all kinds of involvement that we have been talking yesterday and today with you actually. And for the radiation issue, I think Dr. Shen, this is one of the questions that was asked is the risk, like the theoretical risk and have you ever had any knowledge of problems due to radiation?
The risk of radiation is a very common question. So the risk with a CT scan is that it uses X-rays, which is radiation, And the concern is that this radiation can cause damage to DNA, and then that mutation can cause a cancer. This is a theoretical risk that a CT scan today could manifest as a cancer a couple years down the road. What I tell my patients is that there is a theoretical risk. The risk of a cancer from a single CT scan is about 1 in 1,000. This pales in comparison to your overall risk of developing a cancer. So the general chance of developing a cancer in your lifetime is about 25%, or 1 in 4. You may not die of the cancer, but for all the men in this room, you likely probably have a couple cells of prostate cancer, but it doesn't cause a problem. So in terms of CT scans, if your doctor feels that you need a CT scan, there is the risk and the benefit. The benefit is the added medical knowledge to treat your disease, to diagnose the condition, and to manage the process. The risk, in my view, is low from the radiation itself. The risk from a CT scan, the higher risk would be, if you haven't had contrast before, is that you could have an allergic reaction. That risk is small, that's about 1%. And the other risk is kidney damage. But your doctors will check your kidney function before they give you contrast material.
Unfortunately, we are totally out of time. And so we would like to thank the panelists so much for answering the questions. I'm sorry we didn't have enough time. And right now we're on grace time with the interpreters, so we are speeding through. We're not going to do the last presentation on the organization, but I encourage you, because of that, to visit their website and to learn more about the ECD Global Alliance and its brilliant founder and president, Kathy Brewer, who has the last word.
Hello, there we go. I just want to thank each of you for coming. I hope that you found the day very informative, helpful, and inspiring. There are so many wonderful stories in this room of people who have courage beyond words. So I just want to thank each of you for being here. I want to thank all of the medical professionals who have stuck with us for the last 2 days and talked about nothing but Erdheim-Chester disease and how we can beat this disease. So I hope you'll give them all a great round of applause. Most of you will agree with me that they are our heroes. So we're very thankful. I also want to ask you to give a great round of applause to the staff members. The ECD Global Alliance has only 2 part-time staff members. We do everything the organization accomplishes is done by 2 people who work part-time for not a very big salary. The rest of the work is done by volunteers. All of the programs that are done by the ECD Global Alliance are done thanks to very generous donors who give generously from their heart. We do not receive any government funding. There is no government funding from the US, from Europe, from Australia, from China, from any country. So it's only because of people like you in this room and your friends and families that we can do something like you've just been through today. So what I'm asking you from my heart today is if you will get involved with the organization. It's very easy. You go to the website, you send us an email, you tell us what your skills are, you tell us what your interests are. We will find a way for you to help our cause. So I just ask you to please think about that. And if you can, if you have friends or family, that you will ask them to do likewise. We can beat this. We have made some really great strides thanks to these gentlemen and the others like them, and thanks to people like you. Because working together, we can accomplish anything. But we need you. Without you, it's not going to work. Don't think that someone else is going to do it. It is you, it is me. And together, if we stand tall, we can beat this disease. So please, help. I wish each of you a safe journey home.
Kathy, we're going to interrupt. You don't have the last word.
A lot of you might not know, but this Kathy Brewer is the one that started the Alliance, and if it wasn't for her, this would not even happen. So we cannot thank you enough for all that you do. You're just absolutely amazing. And a small token of our appreciation is we wanted to give you a small donation to the Erdheim-Chester Alliance in your name. And thank you for all you do. You're amazing.
Thank you to all of you. This will go to the organization. It will be there to help make this happen again. We're planning, hopefully, we're looking into making this happen sometime next year in the New York City area. So I know that's a long way to travel, but I hope that you might start saving your pennies and plan on being there. Until then, I hope you have a safe journey home, but this is not the end. We're going to have a social in these rules in about 45 minutes now. So if I can ask everybody to exit quickly so that we can reconfigure the rooms to have space for us to get back together, then we'll get back together tonight so that we can all talk about what we've heard today, share our stories, get to know each other, and say a proper goodbye. So I'll see you in just a few minutes, and thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for this.